Quackson, welcome to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
Good, man. Justin, thank you for having me.
It's an interesting name.
It's a meme. They kind of, I don't want to say bully you, but they make fun of you, they poke at you, and then they photoshopped me on a duck.
Why do you think they named you that?
I own like so much duck stuff, and like I have ducks like everywhere. It's just nonstop ducks. What pushed me over the edge was... And then I got really into downhill skateboarding.
Oh way, that's sick. So let's get into the actual question of how did that collab come to be?
Great question. Okay, we didn't really like think much of it, and like she hits me up and I was like, yo, can I get a copy of that? It's nuts, dude. Like if I think about it,
that being like, you know, what you get a lot of your inspiration from, it's like, wow, now you get to collab with that person.
There was a lot of pacing around the house. The first time she would message me, I definitely like freaked out and just kind of started walking around being like, is that real? I don't know. You know, like is this really happening? I don't know. And will there be money? I don't know.
Quackson, welcome to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
Good, man. Justin, thank you for having me. It's
Absolutely.
nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here. First off, I want to congratulate your new collab with REZZ and Wreckno, and I do want to talk about that. But I think first it's important to talk about a little bit like your story before that and kind of how you got to that point. So first of all, let's just give me a little rundown of like how the Quackson project came to be and like how you came up with that name, because it's an interesting name too.
Oh man, I was hoping you would leave with that. Well, thank you, man. Thank you for the congratulations. Okay, so the funniest thing about my name is it's definitely it's a meme. My friends in high school were like how a lot of friends in high school are, and they kind of, I don't want to say bully you, but they make fun of you, they poke at you, and they like, you know, everyone's in high school definitely has like that at some point. And my friends made a meme of me. Of a picture of like me when I was really young, because my parents put all of those photos on Facebook, as they do. So my friends found those photos and then they photoshopped me on a duck, and then they made that the cursor of a web page, and they started calling me Quackson. And then
because your actual name is Jackson, so I was like, it's got to be tied somewhere in there.
Yeah, so my real name is Jackson. That is like a myriad of the nicknames that I had when I was in high school. So I just kind of ran with that as a brand. And to be honest, like naming stuff is kind of, I think for a lot of artists is kind of like our downfall sometimes, because it's always like, dude, what do we name this song? Or like, what do we name our alias or like whatever? And so I was like, oh, this is like a funny, I don't know, this is brandable. Like I can make a duck and the duck can do things. And like, it's just like not thinking too deeply of it. And now like, you know, what is it, like 6-ish years later, like I own like so much duck stuff, and like I have ducks like everywhere. It's just nonstop ducks.
Are you a hockey fan at all?
I'm not actually.
No. It made me think of the Ducks, the movie.
The Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, I've seen the Mighty Ducks. It's one of the many duck references I get. There's Donald Duck. There's nonstop ducks. So like that is really how that came about. I don't know. I just kind of went on a whim, because like I didn't want to think too hard about it, you know, especially then, because I started this project really early in making music. Like I had barely been producing when I started this project, so like I really wasn't thinking deeply at all, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, you see a lot of people. Someone who just came to mind is like Ellis Dream. He used to be Brills. Like it's like you already have, like you've already been in the industry. You had a successful project already, and it's like now it's just like I feel like for those kind of people, it's cool to like, if they go through that transition in their musical journey to rebrand, it's like, okay, if you already have experience, that's one thing. But for you, it's like, I have no idea. Just starting out.
There's no clue. I mean, I've always thought about that, because there are parts of me that wonder if like my name isn't like serious enough, I guess. Like I wonder if people will take me seriously.
There's a lot of people like that though. I don't know if you know like Skishy. He's been on this podcast as well. He's the
one with it's SQISHI. Okay, I didn't know if that was squishy or how that was pronounced.
I think he pronounces it actually squishy. I just say Skishy, but I had him on the pod, and that's kind of the same thing. He was like, dude, it was just a joke, really. It was an easy thing to like brand with the squishy toy, and like I was like, so I mean, you have people that do have like jokes of names, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I think it's, I don't know. I think my insecurity with that mostly stems from like I go back and forth between making like kind of cheeky, more fun music, and then like really dark and like serious feeling music. So I feel like there is some like, I don't want to say inconsistency there, but like it is something that crosses my mind.
Think about,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were pretty young when you first were introduced to music.
I started, the first show I went to was like Zed's Dad in 2011.
Ooh, that's a good first one.
Dude, I think about that time when I got into electronic music a lot, because like it was like a lot of those artists were just doing their first like massive tours, you know, and I like got to watch them go from playing like 800 cap rooms to like 5,000 cap rooms, and
the
just
stadiums.
Like thinking about that. Yeah. It's nuts, dude. Like if I think about it and I just think about like how influential those moments were for me when I was getting into music, like, oh, so cool.
That's awesome.
But yeah. Fun stuff.
How old were you? Obviously, the first EDM show was at 15. How old were you when you actually went to your first concert?
5.
5, yeah.
Young, very young. Yeah, my first concert was the metal band Motorhead at the Seattle Festival bumper shoot when I was 5 years old. So, sick. And I always went to like a lot of concerts when I was a kid. I was like very into music, and I was super into like rock music and alternative. And then like my mom got me super into hip hop when I was super young still. And so like I just kind of like, music's always been a big facet of my life, and I've always been like a very, I don't know, like an obsessive listener, I guess. Like I get very like hooked on like certain types of music. I'm like, I'll run up a song like a million times in a day. I still do that. Like,
do you get like, do you go through like waves of like listening to different genres too? Where you're like, for like 2-3 weeks, I'm like on rock, and then like a couple weeks after that, I'm like, it transitioned into like, I'll listen to like the rocktronics, where it's like electronic and rock mix, and then I'll put me back into electronic, and then I'll listen to like drum and bass, and like it just switches continuously.
Dude, non-stop. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't have Spotify for like the longest time. I don't know why. I just like didn't. So I only had SoundCloud.
I didn't either. I was the same way.
Dude, yeah. And so like I was super deep into like only listen to electronic music really for like a while, and then I got Spotify like 2 or so years ago, and then like I reintroduced myself to all the stuff that I used to just like listen to on YouTube before ads were a thing. So now I'm like really obsessively back into like stuff that I used to listen to when I was younger, and also like just more like pop music and stuff that like Spotify or SoundCloud doesn't have. But yeah, dude, it's that so much where it's like super obsessed with something for a couple of days, and then like I'll transition into like something kind of adjacent, and then like back to something else. And it's just never ending cycle, man.
That's funny. You said you started off with learning both guitar and bass, correct? When you were like 9-10 years old. When did like did you start getting interested in like actually making electronic music? Because you were just playing the instrument, but then when did you actually like, oh, maybe I'll start trying to make this?
So I played guitar and bass from like 9 or 10 till I want to say like 15 or 16. And then I got really into downhill skateboarding, and I pretty much consumed my life for pretty much up until I was like 22 or so. But I didn't start like seriously producing or wanting to produce till I was like near the end of 20 going into almost 21. Okay. So there was a pretty big gap there in playing music, just because, like I said, I was super into skateboarding. Yeah. And then
what do you think brought you back?
I think a curiosity, and I think I had reached this plateau of being a fan of electronic music, and like I'm sure other people experience this where they're like super passionate about the scene and the thing that they're like attending, and they're like, I want to do more, and they're not really sure what that more is. And I think for me, I just was like, well, I could probably try to learn how to make music, I guess. Like that would be cool. So yeah, I like what pushed me over the edge was ironically enough, was REZZ's 2016 Shambhala set. And I was like very, I don't want to say I was like burnt out on a lot of stuff. I feel like dubstep and bass music and like bass house was kind of big then. And I was just kind of like wanting more out of like electronic music.
REZZ is almost like her own genre. Like she's like the queen of mid-tempo.
Yeah, especially at that time. I literally never heard anything like that. Yeah. And so I was like, what the hell? Like, people are doing that? Like, I don't want to do that. And so I like came home, got like monitors. I only had like one speaker monitor for a long time because I didn't know you had to have two. And then like, I don't know, I slowly like got into it. I luckily like had a lot of friends that were super helpful at first, because like when you first start making music, it's super hard.
I was gonna bring up, I read in a previous article that you were interviewed on, that you were saying that like music production was like one of the hardest things that like you'd ever like had to learn for yourself.
Hands down.
Yeah.
Bar none. And that's like, I would consider myself a pretty like technologically literate person. Like I don't have a hard time with like learning new softwares and stuff, but like Ableton proved to be like probably the most difficult thing I've ever learned. And then like a lot of it's self-taught, but like I said, I had so many mentors and friends, and like for anyone listening, if they're like just getting into making music, I can't stress enough how much like one-on-one mentorship, like finding someone who like really is like willing, and like if you pay for lessons and stuff, like that is 10 out of 10. Like I'm so grateful for the person that taught me a lot of the stuff, which is the artist Levitate, like smartest dude I know. And I took lessons with him for like 3 years. And that was like for sure the key.
That kind of is going to lead me into the next thing. But before I ask the next thing, I was talking to my roommate today about like taking lessons and stuff. And like, he was like, honestly, like I take one-on-ones now because he's at a point where like he feels comfortable as a producer and that he can push it, start developing his own sound and stuff. But for the last couple of years, he's been taking a lot of one-on-ones. And he told me today, he was like, it really isn't about like, yes, you get the education and stuff, and that's like the cherry on top. But he was like, honestly, it's just building the relationship with whatever artist that is that you choose to take lessons with.
I think that's a big one. I think also it's really important to take multiple different one-on-ones with different people, because some people's teaching styles is like really different. And that does go back to the same point of like, it helps you build those relationships, but it also can help you like figure out what makes sense for you.
And get different perspectives on how to go about certain things. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Taking it back to who you took lessons with, what was you say his name was again? Inaudible?
His artist name is Levitate.
Or Levitate, and, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's a dude, a good dude.
I saw that there was a couple people, Kumarian and then Inaudible, who Levitate the names reminded me of each other, but you created a production company called Waves.
Yes.
Are you guys still doing that?
No.
Okay.
So that like Waves was definitely a cool thing. At the start of it was like me, Inaudible, Kumarian was part of it, and my girlfriend Hannah, and we all, because she's like the visual, she does all my visuals and like creative direction and stuff. And yeah, we were just like kids who wanted to play a show and like wanted to make cool art and do stuff, and like that turned into like a 3-4 year side quest of like, it turned into like these crazy immersive art experiences, and by the end of it we were throwing like side stages at like Bass Canyon and like Paradiso, and that was a festival, and like that was all happening in like 2019. And then obviously the pandemic hit, and like we all kind of, it just like, I don't know, that definitely derailed a lot of stuff. But with Waves in particular, we had like,
so it was pre-pandemic.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we did like our biggest show like February 2020.
Oh, like next month is done. Yeah. Shit.
And then man, that just like, that made it really difficult. And then like just life stuff started happening, and it was just like, we talk about bringing it back one day, but like throwing shows is definitely another beast.
Yeah.
And yeah, the whole time we were doing that, I was in college and working and like trying to make music and like,
damn,
it was nuts, man. It was nuts. But yeah, shout out to Anna, because she was definitely the legend behind that, and like putting in all the crazy hours when I was like, well, I got to write a paper.
Yeah. I got to do this. I got to graduate. What'd you get your degree in?
Communications.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I went to University of Washington. I took a gap year to learn how to make music, and then I took a gap year from getting an AA from community college, then went to UW.
Got it.
Yeah.
What was was it just parental, just, you have to go to college now after high school, or what? Okay, yeah.
And I mean, I'm very grateful for that sort of stuff, because like I am privileged in a way where they're like, look, like we'll pay for your school, we'll subsidize like your cost of living, but like you just need to go to college. And it's like, if you don't do this now, you're not going to, and you're not going to want to go into debt. And they're like they laid it out in very simple terms for me to understand, where I was like, okay, you're right. And I'm grateful that I did, because like now like I have a really good job, I can get that sort of stuff, and like
you have a job
to teach me a lot of skills
to support you while you're building your music career too. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, I can talk about that all day, because I did the broke freelance work for the longest time, like off trying to make music, or trying to make money off music. And like, man, that was not sustainable for me personally. Like that really was not a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I recommend people, especially because like, I think nowadays more than ever, there's like a lot of people are like, oh, you need a computer and you can just put stuff out and it's going to be great. And I'm like, man, no, you can't. Like, it's so expensive.
You've also been primarily an independent artist throughout that time too, which I wanted to talk a little bit about. Why did you kind of choose to go that way? Was it a choice that you made, or was it kind of just like what happened?
It's kind of just what happened.
Okay.
I think it's kind of just what happened, but it is also a bit of a choice, just because like I think a lot about like what I want to do with my project. And like the couple times I've tried to write with the intention of like, I want to get on this label, or I want to do this or that, like it never works. Like like the product I feel like suffers greatly. And like, I feel like being independent, you just get a lot more like choices, and you can be a lot more like strategic about what you want to do and what you want your project to say, what the art looks like, how you distribute it. And like, those are all skills that I think every person should try to learn that wants to be a producer, because like there's such a misnomer where people are like, I'm gonna go get signed and it's gonna all happen, and I'm like, man, that's good. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, good luck. But, and I feel like, I mean, almost the music industry landscape has changed too. I feel like more and more people are doing that. So like, and they're supporting themselves with, you know, not only that, but you know, a lot of the independent artists are supporting themselves with giving lessons, or they have their Patreon, or they have some form of other income stream. Have you done mentorship?
Yeah. I definitely have a decent amount of people I still do those with. And I like try to keep those rates fair. I just don't have as much time to like publicly advertise them, but I still have like a good group of people from when I was doing like more independent like music work, and it's really fun, man. Those are like really gratifying, and it's like, I don't know, it's just cool to see that, and then like watch you be able to like help someone else's project, and then you start to see them just like get better over time. And like, I don't know, I run a Discord, and I used to do like Twitch demo streams, and like I started those in the pandemic. And like, if I think about how much I've gotten to watch like people's artist projects grow and their sound grow and their skills grow, I'm like, dude, that's nuts. The fact that you can play any role in that and help people is like
good feeling.
10 out of 10.
Yeah. I need to join your Discord. I just got done setting mine up like last week, so
I just got on. Dude, that's the hardest thing with Discord is like I find myself getting sucked in, and so I went for a while trying to limit it, and I just get like very fixated on one thing. So I'll realize I've spent like 3 hours in there, and now I'm really like neglecting it, and I need to find a healthy balance.
Yeah, it's either like I'm all in or I'm all out. Like it's hard to like put. I'm the same way. Freaking ADHD gang.
Dude, it's so bad. I'm like trying to be more conscious of that shit these days, just because like time is like so much more limited that like, I don't know. I need to mostly stay off Twitter and TikTok if I'm being honest, because those are the ones where it's like 3 hours gone.
Yeah. I know we were going back to the independent artist thing, and not to say I know being an independent artist meaning signing to labels and stuff, but when did you start working with Knockout? Because I know I interviewed Shutterclick a while back as well, and so far I've had nothing but good things to say about your team. When did that kind of happen?
Okay, I will be 100% honest here. I started working with them, I want to say July of last year. And at first, because like I've known Brooks for a minute, I met him end of 2021 or end of 2021, and they were just starting Knockout at the time, and they really wanted to get me on board, and I was just like hesitant because I didn't know him like that, and I didn't like hadn't really even launched it much yet. And then I started to see how well they were running things and how professional they were. And I was like, okay, like you guys are new, but like y'all know what you're doing, and y'all have hustle and y'all have drive, which is like the biggest thing. And they just do really well at that. And they're very on top of it. And they're like
seem like their
attention to detail is good.
Yeah.
And that's like, I definitely gave him the runaround for a while, because I was like in the middle of moving. Like I was moving down to LA, and like life was just kind of crazy at the time, and like I just didn't know if I had like capacity to take on new management, and like I wasn't sure at that point, and I feel bad because I definitely did. But like Brooks was good on it, man. He was really good on it, and I need to like thank him for that, because I just haven't actually gotten to be like, yo, thank you for actually like following up, persistent. Yeah, because like that, I was seeming like a nightmare client off the bat, being like, I'll get back to you. Yeah, no, dude, they're good people. I'm very grateful for them. And
when did they start Knockout? I can't remember when they actually started.
They were really just starting to launch it around, at least based on my fish memory, they were, I think, just starting to launch it around the end of 2021.
Okay, so it's still fresh. Got it.
Yeah, they were, because I remember he was just managing my friend's Halvian Space Case out of Portland, and he was like, yeah, I managed them. I'm like starting a management company. I'm like, that's sick. And
that's right, because you're from up north, so that kind of makes sense. I just realized that.
I'm in LA right now. I'm actually moving back to Seattle on Sunday.
Oh shit, why?
But yeah, going back.
Just for work?
I mean, down here is really expensive, if I'm being honest. And it's like, I don't think this place is like really healthy for me in the long term, because like it costs a lot of money, and it's also really isolating. Like my girlfriend Hannah and I live together, but like we have some friends here, but all of our friends here are in music, and like I'm sure, as you know, everyone that's in music is like always working or they're always working on their creative projects, and they probably have to work another job to subsidize it.
Yeah.
And so like you don't really get to like be super close with people here. And so I just, at this point in my life, I've like realized, because we've been here a year, I just like need more of a support system. Like I miss my family, I miss my friends, and like I like to, when I do have off time, like I want to be able to spend it in a way that feels more like fulfilling and supportive, I guess.
Why did you move to LA to begin with? Was it just because of the music thing?
Yeah, music, and just like wanted to change the scenery, wanted to try it, you know, and like, I mean, my girlfriend does all like animation stuff. She thought it would be good for like clients, and she has some family down here, and we just wanted to give it a whirl, man. And it's like, this place is really cool, but it's not even just rent. Like the cost of living here is bananas. And like on paper coming down here, I was like, it's not that bad.
I live in the Bay, so it's very comparable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So are you in like San Francisco?
I'm in Hayward, so like 30 minutes outside.
Okay, got you. Yeah, the Bay is, I'm sure you do deal with sweet California taxes, and that. And
I've lived here all my life, though. I grew up in Sacramento, so I'm from Cali. Yeah. So.
Oh, nice.
I'm kind of used to it, but.
Yeah, my family's in Sacramento too.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it's definitely. I was not ready.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I want like a little bit more, both like financial freedom in my life, because like if one day this sort of stuff goes well enough that like I can start going full-time music, like doing that here would be so stressful and like so much harder. And so Seattle like is a little bit more of a safety net in that regard, where like if things start happening, you know, I can be in an environment that's not like too crazy. Yeah.
And you know, again, stupid taxes. I want to move out of California if I can. The only thing that sucks is my family's here, so that's like I got to move away from my family. But
dude, yeah. And that's, I don't know how close you are with your family, but that was one
very
thing.
Close. I'm an only child too, so very close.
Okay, so you get it. Yeah, that's like I heavily discounted that because like I'll come up, I'll see them, but it's not the same. Like it's just odd. I don't know. I'm definitely attached in that way. I'm happy I tried. I'm happy we came down here, but I hit the breaking point where I was like, I just kind of want to go home, I guess.
Yeah, I've always been curious because I see like one of my favorite producers is Subtronics, and he lives in Philly, or like Excision. I'm pretty sure still lives in Canada. Or like all these guys, like they don't live, like LA is the home of or whatever, but like with today's technology and stuff, like you can just live wherever you're from, which is nice.
Yeah, man, I got a lot of thoughts on that if I'm being honest, because like I don't want to say I was like overly optimistic, but I came down here like thinking like it'd be good for my career, and then I kind of like noticed this thing. This may be kind of a hot take, but like I feel like if you try to come up in the music scene here, it's almost identical to being a local DJ anywhere, with like a slightly bigger threshold for what it could do for you. But I don't know, I just had a long conversation with my mentor Levitate about it, but like a lot of those people, like if you come up as a local somewhere, even the bigger players will probably still in the back of their mind think of you as a local. And so it's like that's definitely just a pretty nuanced conversation, and just kind of my take on it.
It's better to be from North Dakota and be a crack producer than to be an LA.
Yeah, that's like I've watched a lot of people down here kind of like, I don't want to say I've watched people do that, but like I see people who I like really respect in the producer community, and then like I come and I see where they're at on shows here, and like I've watched them like still stay like opening at the same clubs the whole time, and I'm like, is that really helping when like you definitely like have the talent, you have all the stuff, but like is that holding you back or is that helping you? And then I don't know. So I just kind of like realized that, and I was like, I'm just gonna stay out of it and just like focus on making music and like talking to people online and like doing this stuff and like making social media content and the stuff that. Well, I don't know. This stuff has changed so much since the pandemic. I feel like maybe a couple years ago that would be different.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk about how you were back in 2018 named top 40 artists to watch by YourEDM, and I know that kind of impacted you kind of in a significant way. Basically what I want to talk about is you mentioned that you didn't feel like you were ready. Your project was at the point of being worthy of that. So first, let me ask, why do you think they named you that? If you didn't feel like your project was there, why do you think you got that recognition?
Great question. Okay, so to be honest, at that point, I had only been producing for 2 years.
Okay.
So like I really didn't, like, point blank, didn't have what I would consider the skills. Like the raw ideas were cool, and like the stuff that I was able to make like did well on paper. Like I had a lot of my earlier songs like got pretty good organic traffic, even despite like lack of marketing expertise or like budget or any of that stuff. Like it just like those days were different, you know, like SoundCloud algorithms hit different, even Spotify, like stuff gained traction. And at the time, mid-tempo was really like having its moment.
Yeah.
So I think all of those things kind of culminated to me like getting that kind of shine. But like if I think about the pressure that put on and like the opportunities I missed, not solely because of that, but because of like what that presented to me and what I was able to deliver, I guess. And like I think about that, if that happened like, you know, now, and like realistically I'm sitting on like this crazy back catalog. It doesn't take me a month to write a song. Like it's, and like, you know, I know how to market my stuff, how to contract stuff out, how to do all that sort of stuff myself. Like I could have capitalized so much better on it.
So you're just early.
I'm still grateful for that at the end of the day.
You were just it was just early for you. Yeah.
Real early.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think like you said, like there wasn't that many people that it still really isn't. The mid-tempo scene isn't like huge. So there's only like a few people. So yeah, it's like if you're gonna choose, if you need to choose someone out of mid-tempo, probably the point of where you were at, there was no one really comparable to you.
I mean, there's a decent amount at that time because it was really like that was when it was having its V1 moment. I think it's about to have its V2 moment now, from what it looks like. But yeah, I just wasn't ready. I even think about like around that time, I randomly got hit up by like a major label. And like I went and had a meeting with them in LA and everything, and like nothing came of it because like I just wasn't ready.
What's your back catalog? So, like, what does your back catalog look like?
I got like one finished song and like 3 8-bar loops. You know? Like,
when you're sitting on songs, I feel like labels, if you did want to sign something over to them, or they did want to like start pushing, not signing your project fully over to them, but signing a couple of tracks at least over to someone. I feel like having a back catalog, they're like, okay, we can probably, and especially if it's a good back catalog, and it can be like, oh, we can make money off of this. But if you have nothing, then they're like, okay, there's going to take some time. We can't really, there's no money here.
There's no money here. And will there be money? I don't know. Yeah.
It's a big risk.
So I don't know. I think that, because like that was really cool. I'm really grateful that happened, but I wasn't ready. And then the pandemic happened. And then it like, obviously that time for me, as for everyone, was very like introspective. You know, you're stuck in your house. You can't really like do a lot.
Do you think COVID for you was a benefit or a setback? Because I've heard different things from different people for different reasons.
Man, that's hard. I think it was. I think it was both. I think it was a massive benefit in the end because I really upped my production game, and like it came with a lot of peaks and valleys, like both like mental health and like output wise, because you know when your whole life was like going out and doing things and throwing shows and like being active in the community and doing all this stuff, and then like it just like dead halt, and then you're like, okay, well I want to like get better at my artistic career, and then you like have these realizations of like you not being at the place that you want to be. Definitely like super depressed for a while. And I was like, do I even want to do this? And then I was like, man, that's a stupid mentality. How would I learn how to make music better? And just wrote like incessantly, man, like a madman, and just watched tutorials like every day and just like tried to like get better, you know? And at the end, it was a benefit, but I won't say that it was super fun the entire time mentally.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I struggled. I was going through a breakup during that time. So yeah, COVID was, but I also started the podcast during that time. So it was like, same thing. It was like, I was going through something kind of heavy, but then at the same time, it was like at the end of it, like now I have a show that I'm super proud of, and I get to talk to awesome people like you.
yeah, dude, that's the thing. Some of the COVID projects though, like that sounds like perfect. Like I feel like there's a lot of hardship in like the things that people had to go through, whether it was like breakups or circumstantial or work, and like the pandemic uncovered a lot of like darkness, and then also birthed a lot of like cool side projects that like live on afterwards. You know.
Do you think during that time of you getting named like in the top 40 or whatever, or did you struggle at all with like any imposter syndrome because of that? Yeah, I would imagine.
Nonstop.
I would imagine so.
Dude, still to this day, man. I feel like that's like imposter syndrome is one thing that I see a lot of people talk about, and it's very like that's a really hard one to like break the shackles of, because like no matter how good you are, no matter how many fans you are, no matter how many fans you have, like you're always, you know, gonna feel like it's not good enough. And I feel like there's a couple different ways to like treat that mental gymnastics, and for me I mostly try to use that as like a leverage point of like, well, get better and like try not to dwell on like the implications of like, I don't try to like dwell in it and let it embrace me and like feel like, oh, well, it'll never be good enough. It's like, well, if you don't feel good enough, then just focus on getting better and just focus on the things that you like have control of rather than like fixating on it, I guess. But it's different for everyone, man. That sort of stuff is really tricky, and other people's mental battles with that are like not mine. That's just how I go after it typically.
Did anything like change because of that imposter syndrome? Did it push you into like you said, it made you a better producer, but did anything else happen for you as far as like mindset or like anything like that due to that?
Yeah. I would say the one thing that I really struggle with in like in that department is like kind of related to imposter syndrome, but it's mostly like attaching your self-worth to your creative output or to your like, that's the one that I really like grapple with. And I'm like trying to be really aware of that because I'll realize like, I feel really depressed and down if I like can't write music, and like I just like feel really like hopeless, and like I try to like walk through the mental hoops of being like, look, like it's not what it is. Like I try to gaslight myself out of it. Like, you know, you're good, man. Like it's not every day is a good day there, you know, or like, and that's the part that I think I personally struggle with the most is like the self-worth to creative output and to like creative like result, I guess. So like when things don't feel as though they're like going well in a career, like it's like really easy to be like, well, it's never gonna go well. But
and then and then it really, I mean, once you get in that mindset too, then it's like it's hard to get better. It's hard to like, it almost like that mental block kind of holds you back almost in a way. Yeah.
It's really all encompassing. And that's like that's the one thing that I think is really weird about this music stuff is like I think it's both getting older, but like before I made music, I would consider myself a pretty like mentally stable person. Like I never really like I never really felt like super down or like I couldn't like bring myself to do certain things. But as soon as I started making music, man, it was just like, oh man,
the mental battle was real.
Like maybe my mental health isn't so great.
Right. I would kind of want to know what happened between that time of, you know, dealing with imposter syndrome and all that stuff and what we were just talking about. What happened for you between that time and obviously now where you produced a collab with REZZ and Wreckno? What was like the biggest like growth catalyst, or what was like the biggest change for you in between those two times?
I would say it was okay. So like 2020, I put out 2 EPs, one of which I'm still like pretty happy with, one of which not at all. But I had put out 2 EPs, and then after that, I kind of realized I like didn't really know what I wanted to do music wise, because like I was definitely put into a box pretty early. Like that's the mid-tempo guy, and like don't get me wrong, I love mid-tempo. It's the main thing that I make, but like that plus just kind of coming into my own as far as making music was concerned was kind of confusing. And so 2021, I put out like 2 songs.
Oh maybe. Shit!
And I just wrote
2 EPs to 2 songs. Damn.
Yeah, dude. Like I think 2020 I clocked like 10 or 11 songs, and then the next year it was like 2, and I was like, stop the presses.
Yeah.
just like focus on writing music and like figure out what you want to write, figure out what you like can write, what you have the skills to do. And like, I get really like the same way my music listening habits are, my writing habits are super similar, where like I'll crank out like 6 or 7 like mid-tempo style tunes and then like switch gears into like hip hop influence halftime or like more dubstep-y influence stuff and like crank out a bunch of stuff in that vein. And I think once I started to realize that was just like how my brain likes to make music, and like I don't want to ascribe to like super stringent like boxes for myself, fully liberated. I just like started writing so much more. I started feeling a lot more like fulfilled.
That's interesting.
With what I was making.
Because I know a lot of people ask like, how do you get through like writer's block? How do you get to the other side of it? And it sounds like you kind of found the keys to unlock that for yourself, which is cool.
That's that, and like just endless like sound design and like writing without intention. Like that's the one thing that like I think, at least for me, and I know probably for other people, is like when you feel as though you have to like live up to something or you need to make something for an expectation, and you like find yourself in these patterns, or you're too like stringent on your workflow and you're like, oh, I have to write, you know, from start to finish, or I have to start with a drop, or like just like break those things. Like those things like are arbitrary. Like just like have fun. Like that's what you like got into this from the first place. Like, it should be fun. Like,
yeah, absolutely. A lot of people forget to do that part.
Yeah, dude, that's like why I was kind of happy to like stop doing like freelance music work, because I feel like when you ascribe like your value and your worth, like both financially and self-worth wise to it, and it doesn't go well, it like you start to resent the thing you're supposed to like the most. And like once I realized that, I was like, no, I'm gonna go get a normal job and like treat the thing that I'm supposed to enjoy the most, like the fun activity that I get to do, and like that I should feel.
In my
privileged.
opinion, is especially if you do come to face with that, it's like having fun is what's going to take your project to the next level. If that's what you're trying to do. So,
dude, yeah, and like after that, I started signing tracks to labels. Like I pretty much did like mostly label releases last year, and like of like random stuff. A lot of the songs I was like, those will probably die in the archives. Like, I don't know, it was just like a random fun thing I wrote, and like people were picking it up, and like I don't know. I think it's just important to like not lose sight of that, and like you should be focused on like your goals and what will help you achieve them, but like. At the end of the day, man, if it's starting to feel mundane, like just try to have fun with it. And if you're not having fun with it, that's a way bigger, harder question.
Absolutely. So let's get into the actual question of how did that collab come to be?
Okay. So, like I said, REZZ is like one of my biggest influences.
Yeah, I bet that was crazy, especially like that being like what you get a lot of your inspiration from. It's like, wow, now you get to collab with that person. It's huge.
Yeah, and like I like didn't know. I just didn't know if that would like ever happen. I don't know. I'm a very like pessimistic person, so I was like, yeah, that sounds crazy. My girlfriend was actually making like an art piece that was like based on like the concept of life and death, and she was like, oh, like I kind of want to use the song "Life and Death." And I was I was like, I'll make an edit of it for you, and like, you can put it in the video. And like, we didn't really like think much of it. It was like an 8-bar loop. It was like 15-20 seconds. And like, she hits me up after we post that. I was like, yo, can I get a copy of that?
No way. Like, that's sick.
I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was just having fun and screwing around and making this 8-bar loop. And that's what she liked. That's so sick.
Yeah. And I like literally I didn't like put any. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool if she saw it. Like, that'd be great. And like, but it wasn't like I wasn't thinking about it at all. It was literally like just a 20-second loop I wanted to give my girlfriend to use for an animation she made. And then as soon as she hit me up, like pretty shortly thereafter, I was like, yeah, I'll send that to you. And I just like immediately finished it. Yeah. Like, it was like right now. So that's how we got connected. And then she started playing it like a couple months later at festivals, and like one of the videos of it blew up on Twitter, and like REZZ was trending, and it was the first video that was there, and it was just like my edit, and I was like, this is so weird, man. Like, thank you, algorithms. Like, what the hell? Yeah. And yeah, man, that was just really cool. And then we just started talking, and like I was like, oh yeah, if you ever like want to share some IDs, like I'll send you some IDs. And she was like, yeah. I sent her a ton. And then she picked Gyrate as like the old demo version, and then the rest is history.
So that was your song originally?
I started that, yeah. Sick. I had it as a demo for like I had it as a demo for a while. I had that as a demo since before Beyond Wonderland in 2021. So it was another one that was just in the archives for like forever. And it was really funny when she like landed on that one. She was like, wouldn't it be crazy if we got Wreckno vocals on it? I was like, yeah, that's crazy. And then she was like, okay, cool. Oh, can you send it to me? I'm like on a bus on the way home from Mexico. And I'm like hotspotting from my phone, like sending stems. And then like on the plane, like downloading stems with vocals like back, and like trying to work all it like all on one day, like while in Mexico or like traveling home. And it was just like so... I'll always remember that because it was just so surreal. Yeah, and the anxiety was just like, I got to do this now. And, your brain's just like, go. And yeah, man, it happened so fast too. That was a crazier thing because like I feel like usually collabs like that like go through a bit of a process, but like we finished that in October, like end of October. Oh wow! And then it was out like beginning of January, which is nuts. Like,
yeah, that's super quick turnaround time. Yeah, most of the time it's like I know people sit on music for like a year plus.
Yeah. And so, dude, that was really sweet, and that's a big like vote of confidence from her that she was like really stoked on the song, which is like very.
Was it released on which label is it?
It was Hypnovizion.
Okay, yeah.
It was like the third Hypnovizion release ever, which like I don't know, I'm just super grateful for all of that at the end of the day, and I was really not on my 2022 or 2023 bingo card or life bingo
or
card.
At all, yeah.
And so, yeah, and she's really nice. And she was like very, as far as collaborators go, she was like the most ideal collaborator I think I've had, in the sense of like very communicative, very like direct, and like very easy to work with. Because sometimes working with other people, stuff gets lost in translation, or it's like I love this, and then like you don't hear from them again. But her, it was like a lot more like, yeah, let's do this, and just like very responsive and like a very friendly and like good process.
Cool. That's awesome. Did you, going back to, I know you mentioned imposter syndrome previously, did you deal with any of that during that time? Because that's another huge crazy moment.
Yeah. There was a lot of pacing around the house. To be honest, there was a lot of the first time she even messaged me, I definitely like freaked out and just kind of started walking around being like, "Is that real? You know, like is this really happening?" I was so confused. But yeah, that sunk in pretty hard. And then I don't know. Yeah, I kind of. My brain does this weird thing where like really cool things happen, and I'm always just like, okay, what's next? And I feel like my brain like almost puts up a defense mechanism where I like desensitize myself. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. Like it just doesn't feel real still, which I think is mostly like it trying to like debug the anxiety. It's just like, no, that's very much real. And you're just putting up a wall so you don't freak out, you know.
But now it's out, and I love it. I know when I first heard it, and I was like, oh, new REZZ song, and then. Yeah, I'm so glad that it kind of the opportunity fell in my lap to actually interview you. It's been an honor. Yeah. My last question based off the REZZ collab was, what was your biggest takeaway from the experience, both as a musician and also as an individual?
That's a really good question. I mean, first off, I'm just like really grateful for like her, for Wreckno, for all of the Hypnovizion team. They're all really great to work with. And I think the one like unsung hero I haven't mentioned yet is like her fans. Like the cult of REZZ fans like are
huge,
absolutely insane in the best way possible. Like they're so passionate and so nice, and like I think that was, at least from like a music career perspective, I was like, having an engaged fan base that like really genuinely cares about you and your music is like the North Star goal, you know. Like you want people that like care like that. And I think that's like a bigger thing I feel like I watch people kind of disregard when they're like starting to either come up, or like even more established artists where they like don't really like tap into their fans enough, or they like don't treat their fans like people, or like they're like literally the people giving you your livelihood, you know. And I feel like that's just like kind of hard to watch. And I would love to just like one day have like a fan group that like big and that cares that much and is like that supportive.
If you have 1,000 people who buy all your merch, support all your music, are in your like ecosystem of, you know, when you monetize your project, if you have 1,000 people that support you 100% and buy all your shit and go out to all your shows and everything like that, that's all you really need. You can easily be a millionaire off 1,000 people.
100%. And like I think I've had this conversation before with friends. It's like I'd rather have 1,000 like really active listeners and fans than 10,000 ones that like kind of know you and kind of care. Yeah, like I don't know. I think that was my biggest takeaway career wise. I think individual wise, I think the one thing that made me strive for is because I feel like there's like this stupid misconception of like sometimes this is true, but like don't meet your heroes, but like no, just be a good person. Like REZZ and Wreckno are like great people. They're super friendly.
They're just another person.
100%. So like just always be a good person no matter what happens in music. Like don't get an ego, don't be narcissistic. Like just like treat people well, and just that sort of stuff will come back to you, you know? So I think that was my biggest takeaway individually is like, you know, people are people. Be good. Be a nice person.
That's been something that I've learned very well from this podcast, because I remember at the beginning I was like within the first 10, 20 episodes, I was like, no way am I talking to this person. And then it continues 3 years later. I'm like, oh, they are just people. And it's cool to be able to have a platform to showcase that, like, yeah, you are just another person, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure that has to be really weird after a while. And I'm sure you're very used to it now. Yes. You're like, oh, man, they're just like me for real. Like, it's just like, it's people, man. We're all just like, I don't know, especially producers. I feel like a lot of us are just kind of like, usually kind of like nerdy, soft-spoken people.
They're gamers,
just, like, are really passionate. Yeah, dude, so much. They're gamers, or like like to read, or like, you know, like,
I've met more people who like to read in the music industry than I have anywhere else in my life.
Yeah, I'm trying to get more like into reading, and like especially now that like I'm on screens all the time, I like really need that like escape. I think, and so I think that's probably a big reason why, man, is there's such an expectation to like either be making music or on socials, and it's like, man, you need something away from that every once in a while, and reading is definitely that.
We'll wrap up here because we are getting close to time. Before we wrap up, though, do you have any questions for me?
No, man, this has been great. I guess I'm trying to think of something. Out of your experience interviewing people, because you've interviewed a lot of people in the space, what would you say your biggest takeaway or your biggest thing that you've seen like people struggle with, I guess?
Imposter syndrome is a huge one. That's why I asked you a lot about that. Imposter syndrome, is huge. Mental health, just in general. Anxiety, depression, just crazy shit that people have gone through. There's just been a lot. I like diving into, I mean, everyone has a story, man, and I just like diving into like discovering what people had to go through to get to where they are.
Yeah. 100%. I think I think this platform's great for that, because like a lot of people, it's hard to like be upfront about that sort of stuff online and like have it, you know, be received or even be able to like get it across, right? I think you're doing a good job trying to give us like the platform to talk about that sort of stuff.
Awesome. Well, what are some of your goals in the next 5 to 10 years as an artist?
Okay. Short list for the immediate future. I would love to get an agent and play more shows, because that's just like been a hard one for, you know, independent is great in a lot of ways, but it's also really tricky to like get consistent bookings. And so that's one, because I want to crack into more markets and make more fans. Long term as a project though, really want to do an album, even though I know like long form stuff is kind of like out right now. I hope it comes back in.
Some of the big people, I mean, Excision only releases albums pretty much. He never releases singles. Subtronics is another guy that releases his now turned into an album artist. REZZ even too. She releases singles here and there, but some of the big people do release albums.
Yeah, I think it's more so just in the consumer, or not in the consumer market, but also for like people who are just like getting their bearings. Like it's very advised to do the like single a month, get Spotify on board, and like consistency is when you're trying to like get those people in early. But hopefully that will change one day, and even if not, hopefully I'll have enough of a platform where I can confidently be like, here's an album.
I feel like it is easier once you like Skrillex just dropped 2 albums, but his legacy is freaking gigantic. So it's like anything he does is going to do well at this point.
Yeah.
So,
and that's, I want to get to that point for sure. And I want to like, I don't know, I feel like a really well thought out, like long project would just be super fun to make. So I'll probably do that one day, even if it may not be the biggest thing ever. And then I want to do like a full scale live show one day, like a full, like time coded visuals, like crazy,
like your own custom tour.
Yeah, like I would love to do a full visual experience, because like G Jones is one of my other favorite artists, and and like seeing his shows have always been like some of the most inspiring for me, because I'm like, wow, that is like, you just put so much thought and like representation into this like body of work, and I would love to do my own version of that one day. And then I don't know, I really like, there's a couple of places that like I really want to play just because they mean a lot to me, and I think Shambhala is like the big one. Like if I play Shambhala ever, I'll die happy.
I would just love to just have you gone?
This year will be my 7th year.
Oh shit, nice. Damn. I've always wanted to go. So I've heard amazing things. Yeah,
I've gone like every year since I've been of age, because it was one of the first places that like turned me on to a lot of electronic music, because I would like kind of know artists, and I'd like look them up on YouTube, and I'd see them play this like crazy place, and I'd be like, dude, I want to go to that crazy place, and it was Shambhala. So that place, like that's the number one on like the place I want to play. And I want to play for like more cool underground stuff, because I've seen this like crazy revival and like underground shit with people like Def, or like No Expectations in San Diego, or Black Void in Salt Lake. And like, there's this cool underground scene that's like really exciting. And like, that's the sort of stuff that like short term, I would love to continue to play, because I've gotten to play like a couple Renegade things like that, and the energy is unreal, and it's just like raw, crazy.
Definitely different vibe.
It's such a cool take. Yeah. So like those are like short term goals, is like play more underground stuff, play the dream festivals and the dream bookings, get an agent, play more shows, and then make an album one day, big AV show. And those are like the short terms, or the long short terms.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Other than
see
that,
where
like,
it takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That and get better at like TikToks and the stuff that, you know, will
Dude,
get
social
more
media is
people through the
hard.
door.
I wish, I mean, that's the other thing that's changed about the music industry over time. It's just like, then like every artist or every musician has to also be like a like an influencer kind of in a way. And they have to master, you know, that's a huge part of your career now, where back in the day, it's like, you just, you know, sign stuff to labels and that's it. And then you get like news coverage and stuff, but they do all that for you. But now you're like, you have to do your own, like, you have to be a marketer. You have to be, you know, an influencer. You have to be, you know, all this stuff. And the social media side has just completely changed the game. It's hard.
It's a different muscle, man.
Yeah.
I started to try to make like TikToks and stuff, and that's like it's completely different. And like, I don't know, I'm trying to be better about that. And I try to film them like every Sunday or something, and like set some dedicated time to do it. But like,
that's the way to do it.
If I'm like, yeah, but if I'm like tired and like I don't want to be in front of camera, and I'm like, I think I'm just gonna write like another 8-bar loop.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Before we wrap up, where can listeners find you, and how can they support you?
They can find me on all streaming platforms, Quackson Music on all socials, Quackson Music on SoundCloud. And then, I don't know, they can support me by telling their local promoters to book me. And, and yeah, I don't know, sharing my stuff on social media and stuff, or telling your friends, you know, the standard way.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. If there was one piece of advice that you could give yourself when you first began producing music, what would that be?
I think wait to launch my project and like wait to accrue the skills, because I don't know. Yeah, I think I would have waited more, because I definitely like, I watched some people, and I know some people who like really took their time to perfect it, and it like paid off spades. And like Kamarion's a great example. When I first met him, he was already a super cracked producer. But like I met him in like 2016, and he didn't start releasing music till like
6 years later.
Like 2020. Yeah. And he'd already been a great producer, and like that really worked out for him because he was ready. And like he definitely tried to give me that advice when I was younger, and I just didn't take it because I was young and naive. But like I wish I would have waited. I think that's it. So maybe just like, you know, be thoughtful, take your time, don't rush it until you're like ready for it, or until you like are closer to ready, I guess.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much again for your time today. This was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude, Justin, thank you for having me. This was great.
All right, that concludes today's episode of The Quackson. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to drop us one of those and subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date on all of our new episodes. If you want to learn more about our guests, you can find all of his information down in the description. Have a fantastic week.